authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. I don't know what to call this tonight. It's not TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. It's not Libertarian Lowdown. It isn't Defining a Good Cop. So I don't. Yeah, but so if you've been paying attention to the description, the Dykes on the right are joining me tonight, which I never thought that in my life, honestly, that that combination of words would ever form into a word salad of a sentence that would come out in relationship to my channel or any of my shows, but it's happening. So for those of you that don't know, or if you're just tuning in for the first time, I sell coffee, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment Muhlenberg roast, my nice little mugs here, my shot glasses, travel mugs, and all of this. So I would love for you guys to check out my stuff. I was perusing Twitter a few weeks ago, and I came across this very vocal account on Twitter that was speaking out about the agenda in the schools here in the United States, and actually not just in the schools, public libraries, adult strip clubs. Is there such a thing as a well, there is now, right? But strip clubs and on and on and on. And I met these two ladies, and through Twitter, who have abandoned their position, much like some of you would know with Josh Slocum of the Disaffected podcast, and they've kind of, I don't know where they started for sure, but they're certainly on the right now, which is why they're getting ready to launch their podcast, their show, whatever you want to call it. They've got a YouTube channel. They have Twitter. They have Instagram. They have TikTok, because, everybody is on TikTok except for me, which means I should probably get on there. But Dykes on the right have a channel for a platform for pretty much everything, and they're not afraid to call it as they see it. So we're just going to get to it, and we're going to bring Jen and Meg in. Hello.
Hello.
How are things way out there in the mountain zone? I mean, it's dinner time for you guys. I've already had mine.
We're actually on the Pacific Coast, so we're in the beautiful and wonderful, I say that sarcastically, Los Angeles County, California.
Oh, well, so you're perfectly safe then.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, nothing to worry about there. So
Not at all.
Do you live in the heart of the city then?
No, we live on the more southern part towards Orange County, so we're in Long Beach.
Oh, well, you're closer to an enclave of safety.
Ish.
There's
not a shooting every night anymore, so that's improved.
Yeah.
Well, they've run out of people to shoot.
Getting close.
No, or they've all come to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area and decided to take over the crime spree up here, because we have a shooting pretty much every day now.
Yeah, it's really bad.
We went from not tracking carjackings because they weren't a thing to not tracking carjackings because that's all they do now. So
yeah, let's just say carjackings are the low man on the totem pole here. Like, if your car is jacked and they don't randomly find it dead on the side of the road, you're never going to get that car back. They don't care.
Well, it's a big deal here because we get snow, say, starting around June.
Yeah.
So we don't want no one wants to walk in 100-degree weather with snow on the ground. And so they really pay attention to the cars. That, and the cops up here are afraid that their cars are going to get stolen too. So you don't know. She's like, is he serious?
I'm pretty sure you're serious.
Yeah, no, it's just robberies and looting. That's the call.
We're just kind of used to it, so it doesn't really faze us anymore when we hear about stuff like that. We're just kind of like, it's another Friday night.
They're now doing flash mob robberies. Which
Yeah.
That's the.
Oh yeah, that's been a thing for a while now. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cops finally got savvy to it, and there was one attempt. I think it was last week, and they finally actually were like, "Nope, we're not doing this." Shut it
Yeah.
down. So hopefully,
It broke my heart because my favorite 7-Eleven that's next to our house was actually shutting down for a little while at 11 p.m., which broke my heart
because of that.
because
Well,
of that.
which would
Because of the
be
shootings that were happening here.
which would like be in keeping with their name.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Just saying. Nobody wants to call their store 24/7. That just sounds weird.
Very
It does.
true.
So, for my audience, you guys want to introduce yourselves so we know who we're dealing with?
Sure. I'm Jen. I'm 44, going to be 45. I'm a recovering Democrat in California. And I'm also a homosexual. And I know those two things to most
The
people
heck
don't
you
go
say.
together. But here we are. And yeah, I've been politically active now for about 3 years. That's when I had my walk away moment. And ever since then, it's kind of just been an overgrowth of me being angry and being tired of feeling like I couldn't speak up about it because of fear. And I finally just said, I'm not scared anymore. And
It's actually been longer than that for you.
well, starting, but when I actually
When you
changed
actually
my political
officially walked
affiliation,
away,
yeah.
I'm Megan, the wife. I'm usually the one doing a lot of the posting on some of the social medias. And we've been married since 2019, but we've been together since 2016. I never wanted to get into politics because I know me, and I would fall down that rabbit hole of like, there would be no other life outside of what that is because I would get so entrapped in the hatred of what is going on. And then this one, I had no option.
There's always one. There's always one.
That one just did not allow me to not fall into the trap, and now I just can't shut up because it's ridiculous.
It's all your fault, Jen.
It really is. It is. Actually, it's my fault because when she started really getting into politics, I told her about Twitter.
Yes.
And that's when the rabbit hole for her
Hey, you're
started.
really into politics. Have you heard of this cesspool? It's called
pretty
Twitter.
much.
You could say whatever you want.
Well, I was also still
Kinda.
like a staunch, like what you think of a typical SJW
Indoctrinated gay
ultra
Democrat.
leftist Democrat at the time. And the gender ideology thing had started to kind of become a firestorm there. And as somebody who was considering themselves a feminist at the time, which now, no, not at all. I just started seeing the way people were treating women and placing the interest of men over women as far as their safety went. And that was kind of my trickle down. And once I hit my, what we call a peak trans moment, was when I started diving and getting politically away from the left.
So I'm pretty savvy. I pay attention to a lot of things. A peak trans moment.
Yes.
What's a peak trans moment? So like I'm thinking like optimal performance for your transmission in your car. I don't think
right. Because there's actually a product called that. So what that means, I guess, ideologically, is the point where maybe at one point you were kind of neutral or supportive of the trans movement when it was less radical and not so in your face and, trying to force things on you. It's that moment where they pushed so way too far that you lose support for it. So that's what that was.
Where you were tired of it being in your face all the time.
No, it wasn't that. I actually basically stated a biological fact, and this might be like a little bit not suitable for work, but I was threatened by a member of the trans community with corrective rape in order to check my thinking, because as a lesbian, I should accept biological men in my bed.
Because they consider themselves lesbians.
Yeah. and people
So,
cheering that on. So I said, no,
so
I'm
a
not doing this anymore.
biological male
Yes,
with assigned that at birth.
sure. Hmm.
That's not a thing.
I'm I'm
Echo
trying
kindergarten
to
cop. You're
I'm
born with a
trying
penis
to
or a
not
vagina.
get another strike. All right.
Yes.
Sorry.
So that's why I'm trying to be like
Threatened you with
corrective essay.
corrective intercourse to
Yes.
prove to you that he was a her
Yes.
and lesbian.
Correct. It's pure Ouroboros. The snake always eats its own tail and basically outs themselves. And seeing the
I'm
people
still
just
trying to figure this out. I've heard of a lot of things.
yeah.
That one just wow. Because you made a statement that they didn't agree with.
I literally said a male can never be a lesbian, and that's what I was hit with. And then eventually they started the mob came for me. Okay.
There was threats of unaliving. There was threats of doxing. There was threats of going after our
Violence.
work and our home and our family. And
Right.
I mean, it went so far as one person I was commenting on, I'm not going to judge this police officer for shooting this person because I don't know the whole story. And then all of a sudden, I should be unalived. I'm horrible. I'm a WS supremacist person. My wife is free riding off of my white privilege.
Yeah.
It was just like
that's the way it is on there. So because of that, I am the one that ended up catching a ban for misgendering somebody.
Wow.
Like I got permanently banned, and I had to get a whole new device with the new URL and all that stuff. But
wow.
That's Twitter.
So prior, yeah, it's been a great show. Thanks for coming on. So prior to this, you would have been like out at the Pride events, fully,
Yes.
Fully supporting, marching along, saying, "Hey, let me love who I want to love." And I'm not saying you don't say those things now. That's not my point. But you've kind of come under attack now, kind of like J.K. Rowling. I mean, look at the way people are, going after her. Which, by the way, she's not a good writer. By the way, I just want people to understand that she's highly
never got
overrated.
into the series, but
No. And mine has nothing to do with the fact that she has magic in it, because I love Tolkien. So, you've kind of been pushed off, whether you wanted it or not, pushed off into the camp of, TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminist, because you've had the audacity to say, well, wait a minute, and are pushing back against the culture war, and to the point where it's like, keep the men out of female restrooms, keep the men out of female locker rooms, and keep sports, for the lack of better terminology, segregated. You're not saying they can't compete. You're just saying don't compete with men, don't compete with women, and whatnot. And the full brunt of social justice warriors has turned on you. Was that the final straw where you finally said, okay, I'm still kind of on the left with you, but I have some concerns, and then that pushed you over the line? Or how did that, had you already been pushed over the line and now it's become kind of almost violent against you? Or where were you at with that? Did it really push you over?
The first time, this is oddly funny that you bring this up, because we had just bought our house and a group of our lesbian friends had come over and the subject of trans came up, but they were basically giving them verbal accolades that should have been to females, like, oh, they look so beautiful, and oh, they did this the best, and and I just kind of went, are you guys really buying this crap?
They won that award that is
Yeah,
for
and
women,
it's so progressive, and I just went, I don't agree with it. They're not women. They cannot be lesbians. They're never going to be women. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that, and I don't want them in my spaces. Especially, I said, I don't care if you're full transition, and you mesh into society the way you want to be seen. You're making the effort. I have no problem with that. The problem is that now you have these dudes literally bearded in a dress that are going into bathrooms specifically to intimidate women because they can. And that was an argument.
And GameStop, by the way.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
And
It's
one of my friends that I knew for like over 20 years turns to me and says, wow, and in our own community. And I looked her straight in the face and I said, I no longer consider myself part of that community. If this is what you believe, I'm sorry, I'm not in a community with you.
Let's just say they never came over again.
Yeah, and I started losing my friends. Like I tell people often, and I'm sure you will hear this from a lot of more conservative leaning or kind of like fence riding middle people in the gay and lesbian community, is that it was way harder for us to come out as conservative than it was to come out in the first place. Yeah. Like that's literally terrifying.
Let's like, which one of you was raised Catholic?
Me.
Okay. Are you Hispanic?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I honestly can't tell. Like
most people can't. I'm super light.
You are whiter than I am, sister.
The border crossed her. She didn't cross the border.
Yeah, I got the Spaniard blood apparently.
You got the European side of the Hispanic.
Yeah.
So you're Hispanic and Roman Catholic. When did okay, I don't want to say, I don't like the question necessarily, when did you know? But did you?
You can just ask it.
No, I'm trying to figure out a way to link it. I'm like, trust me, you've watched enough of me now to know I don't care about how I ask questions in the sense of whether or not it's going to bug you, because the worst thing you can do is like leave. And then I'll just go back to watching YouTube videos later. What I want to do is I want to ask it in a way that's, you just said that it was harder to come out as a conservative, Jen, than it was to come out as a lesbian. And I want people to understand Hispanic community, Roman Catholic, which, like, you could say a lot about Roman Catholics today, but the Mexican Hispanic community love their Roman Catholicism.
Correct.
And you don't do anything to upset Mama and Papa, and you darn sure don't upset Abuelo. because Grandma will chase you across the house with a shoe.
That's right.
So when did you come out? And are you honestly sitting here telling me right now that it was harder to come out conservative than it was to come out as a lesbian?
100%.
I'm not laughing because I don't believe you. I'm laughing because I'm trying to go, that's just impossible. That's
no, I mean, honestly, so my mom's side of the family, who I was more raised around than not, like I had part of my dad's family, but I was the closest with my mom's side. They were the most staunch Catholic, but it wasn't something that they didn't always know was going to be the case, because from age 5, I was a little tomboy. I was never wanting, they would put me in a dress and it would be off in 2 minutes, and I'd be in overalls and, little chucks, and, I didn't fit the normal little pristine bows in the hair, ruffle socks, little Latina princess that they wanted. And I think they always knew.
So you said you're almost 44?
I'm 44 now. I'll be 45 in December.
You're almost 45. So I want people to understand that you go back 40 years.
Yes.
To when you were 4, and accelerate that to today, someone would have transitioned you.
Oh, big, yeah. I would be, my body
Am
would
I
be
am I
inflated.
am I saying
Same
that
with me.
wrong?
No, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Megan and I definitely share that opinion
me.
because it is true. I mean, we weren't into typically, it's stereotypical, which is all of these, this ideology is based off of stereotypes. Like, we work so hard to fight against, you know, a man needs to be this and a woman needs to be this. And now it's like, why did we invite that back in?
Oh.
And now if you say, oh, I like pink, well, you know what, go into the surgery mill. You know, like, I like blue, oh, you better go get a mastectomy. Like, ooh,
Well,
I know it's the same
It's
thing with me
crazy.
growing up too, is that I had a lot of SA growing up in my life, but even prior to that, I was into He-Man, not She-Ra. I was into playing outside with the boys and climbing mountains and climbing trees and skinning my knees and
yeah,
doing weird shit on bikes that no 5-year-old probably should have ever done. And I hated dresses and I wanted to play in the mud. And if I would have grew up in this time frame, I would have been trans at 4 or 5.
especially
And
here in
then-
California.
Yeah. I mean, even growing up, like I only wore men's clothes for the longest time of my youth. I only did boys' things. Hell, I even did freshman football for half a semester. Like, but
which is longer than I did freshman football, by the way. So I ran cross country, so I'm
yeah, the running part was not for me then. But yeah,
Well,
I think
so-
both of
but
us
let me-
would have been trans.
let me ask this. We get really worked up about gender roles, right? I
Mhm.
mean, because now you can't have gender roles at all. Like, there's no, you can't. You're not supposed to have gender roles. Don't say this is traditionally a male thing or this is traditionally a female thing. But I still get ladies that get mad at me for holding the door. Not that you can find a door that you have to actually open anymore because everything's automated, but like there are still times where I'll open a door going into a gas station or something for someone, and a gal will jump all over me for it, and instead of saying thank you, will be, I don't need you to hold the door for me, and
Really.
and I'll say, in the ones who say thank you, I'll say it's how I was raised, right? So there's nothing inherently wrong with saying there are traditional male roles and there are traditional female roles. And there would have been a time for both of you where you would have fought that and said, no, we have to eliminate all of those things. No, you would have said
No,
there
I
are
don't-
traditional.
No.
We're gotten more in the Gen X era. I mean,
I can't
You
imagine why with
weren't?
you.
so for me, yeah. So for me personally, that was always a point of politeness.
Yes.
And I can still say, even through that time where I obviously was like the worst feminist ever by these standards. But if I was in a dangerous
I
situation,
want you to clip that and put that on your TikTok, Beth.
but
was
if
the
I was
worst
in a dangerous
feminist ever.
situation ever, I would always, be seeking out a man to help me because I understand, like, that person's going to be stronger than me. That person's probably going to be more apt to help a woman, regardless of what they look like.
Yeah.
So there is gender
No, guys
stereotypes.
only help hot chicks.
What, you're
You'd
trying
be
to say my wife
surprised.
isn't
No,
hot?
you'd be surprised actually, but
No,
funny
but
enough,
it's the way
though.
she said it was no matter what they look like. And I'm over here going,
Yeah, no,
so
you
many
caught that. That's
stereotypes.
exactly what
I
it was.
caught what she said there, by the way.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I pay attention.
I'm just kidding.
But there
I'm
is,
not-
and I mean, the whole thing with, they're basing this off of fashion and clothes. And I will sit here and tell you right now, like, if you looked at us, you would think we were completely opposite, that I could fix a car, that I could, change a tire. I
No,
can't. She
that's
does
me.
a lot of stuff.
I'm Mrs. Fix-It.
I cook. I do more girly stuff. I just feel like there's, like, again, what I said before, this gender movement relies on these strict adherence of these gender stereotypes. Do I believe that there are innate things that males and females do have? Yes, there are gender roles that they do want to have, and not even want to have, but they're just there. Can't help it. The desire to procreate, all those things. I mean, you don't lose those because you're homosexual even. I mean, Yeah, it's very interesting the way this whole thing has morphed.
Do you think, and I say this because I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. Do you think that the way we're heading now, based on kind of everything you're saying, like, okay, no, we've always had somewhat traditional views about gender roles and whatnot. Do you think that there's more to this than acceptance? Like that there are people out there who maybe are genuinely confused. They I don't there again, I don't know how much you've heard or listened to Disaffected with Josh, but I know that you guys pay somewhat of attention to Carrie and Deprogrammed
Mhm.
and Mikey from Mikey Harlow.
Love
Uh,
Mikey.
I knew that. I was warned. I just had to drop that in there. I had to drop that in there because I knew one of you was going to fanboy on that or fangirl. What's the right terminology?
We don't care about pronouns. As long as you're calling us, we don't care.
Yeah.
But Josh talks about this a lot. He grew up as a young gay male.
Mhm.
He knew it. He said at a very early age. But there was always within the gay community, there was always a small segment who were more effeminate, and no one felt the need to tell them that they were actually girls. They just embraced them as more effeminate homosexual men.
Mhm.
Do you think there's more to that where they're pushing, and you euphemistically but lovingly and humorously embrace the terminology dyke for your social media, but do you think there's something happening that they're trying to push this out into culture where there's literally blurring and almost destroying these lines of demarcation between men and women? And do you see this, especially in places like California, LA County? Is it having a detrimental effect on society as a whole, but in particular on women?
Yes, I would like to. I think so. If you look at a lot of the detransitioners, there are a lot on both sides when it comes to the F to M and the M to F. But I think that the F
Wait.
to M,
If you are getting confused by this terminology at any point, stop us, because not everybody knows what M to F and F to M means.
okay, male to female, female to male. So there is a huge
There's a whole segment of
percentage.
people in Minnesota right now that are over the age of 50 are going, what did I just say?
No, it's a lot of the females that are transitioning to males that you see are a lot of the detransitioners where they were, I don't want to say coerced, but in a way kind of like led to believe that that was the route that they needed to take, when really in all actuality they just would have been a butch lesbian.
But they're given no other choice.
But they're not. They're told, you are perceiving yourself as a male, so therefore you must be a male. You are affirming yourself. We are affirming that you have these male characteristics, therefore you must be a male. Let's transition you. Let's get you on your affirmation care, whatever it is. But in reality, they're just taking away all of the butch lesbians because, like I said, a lot of the detransition videos that you see are the females that transition to males that are just like, wait, no, that's not really what I wanted to do, and now I don't feel this way, and now I've just destroyed my body.
Well, they're being sold a false bill of goods by the medical community, and I know here in California, the therapists here are being told to push an affirmation, agenda on them. They are told, okay, well, if this kid says they're uncomfortable in their gender, proceed with affirming healthcare, which is it's I don't know what they think they're doing, but
And I don't know what kid isn't comfortable in their gender when they start going through puberty.
nobody is.
Nobody's comfortable. even my nephew, well, her nephew, my nephew-in-law, he just turned 13, and he was not comfortable when it first started. Like, he hated it, but he never thought he wasn't a boy. But he also wasn't, he passed that point in school where they weren't necessarily teaching it. Now they are. But yes, nobody's comfortable going through puberty. Nobody. Really. We all have like weird shit going on in our head.
That's true.
How do we?
I'm
sorry.
I'm about to be 52 and I still have weird things going on in my head, but most of them are ideological. So I don't know where all your fan base is, but people, you guys need to share this out because this is a very interesting conversation, and these two are actually pretty funny. So if I lose all of my subscribers to you guys, I'm going to be upset.
Oh,
not because of you, but to you. So
we can share.
I'm just clout chasing because I know you have a big following on Instagram. So I was hoping that all your
really?
no,
we just
TikTok.
really started on Instagram.
No, TikTok.
Oh, TikTok.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't do all of this. I do Twitter and Facebook.
My TikTok is getting there. It's getting there.
But
yeah. It's all about the message. It's not necessarily about if
I was
my whole thing is if there's one child out in the world that I can help and save from making a life-altering decision that they don't feel 100% in, or I can help one child get out of a bad situation, then my whole mission and everything that I do is worth it. Because I don't want any child to have to go through anything.
This stuff makes you too angry. It makes you very. I'm like, I've paid attention. You are angry, and I think rightly so. And
it's hard not to be when it's being done in your name and we're being used as a shield, for this crap. Like the minute you say, "Oh, but it's LGBT," I mean, you could have a knife in your hand and go right at somebody and be like, "Oh, but they're part of the LGBT," and okay, well then they're untouchable. Like
that person was transphobic for no reason. I just said that they were. It's okay then. Like it's insane the things that they think that they can get away with, and
because you're getting away with them.
And adult to adult, whatever, adults, that's your own choices, but don't drag our children into it that are our future, that have no idea what's going on. They don't know what's up and down and right from wrong. They're supposed to be taught these things from their parents, but yet their parents, I don't know. I mean, we've coined the term trans housing by proxy because for some reason it just seems like all these parents just.
Did you say trans housing by proxy?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I tweet that out and send that to Josh, because it's funny you say that, because Josh has been talking a lot lately about Munchausen by proxy, and so for you to bring that up, I caught it as you could tell right away. Do you really think this is predominantly a parental, but almost a female parental problem?
How would a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, somebody who's just in kindergarten, first, second grade, know what this is if it wasn't an adult that was doing it and telling them what it is? As far as I know, my nephew wanted to be Chuck E. Cheese until he was 8 years old. Like literally, he wanted to be Chucky from Chuck E. Cheese until he was 8. Like I had to make him mouse ears and a tail. Like I'm not kidding. So how are these children going to know what it is if an adult isn't telling them?
Right?
I mean, there was dinosaurs, but he loves Chuck E. Cheese. I'm not going to hate on it because I thought it was adorable. He would sing me songs. I mean, but anyways, I digress.
One of my 2 granddaughters walks around saying she's a dinosaur quite frequently, but she also watches Trash Truck on Netflix. So if she decides she wants to be a trash truck tomorrow,
outside influences, man, it could be anything. I mean, for the preteens and teenagers, though, I mean, I know for a fact it's definitely very social media driven. You go to the depths of Reddit forums and you have people
is that still a thing? You're showing your age, Jen.
So
you're showing.
No, Reddit is still huge. I mean, I just barely joined Reddit like a year and a half ago. And that was just to get tips for work. But I mean, yeah, no, apparently it's a huge thing still with the kids.
Well,
Especially
you're on
parents.
the right, so shouldn't you be at 4chan or 8chan or something like that?
No.
Um,
No QAnon kooks here.
No,
oh God, oh no, don't get me. Mm-mm.
no.
I'm actually working on trying to find a QAnon expert that has debunked QAnon to come on the show because I'm so sick of QAnon.
It needs to happen because
I'm so tired of it. And everybody, well, I had Monica Perez on a few weeks ago. She's
Mhm.
a libertarian deep thinker, and I asked her, and she goes like, I've never researched it. So she kind of retweeted me to see if she could help me find somebody. And another friend of mine, a libertarian here in Minnesota, is like, hey, have you reached out to Rechtenwald? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't run in those circles. He runs with guys like Tom Woods. We're just like, hey, you want to come on my show? Well, I know
You
you've.
did that to us, and look at where we're at now.
Well, yeah, but that's because you haven't
No, but
started.
that's
your
like
show
whole
Yeah.
nother level.
Oh, I know.
I'm kidding. I
But
thought
I did see the Monica Perez one. It's very good.
she is amazing.
She is.
Well, thank you for that. By the way, was that your first time running into her?
Yes, actually, it
Yeah,
was. I think I had randomly seen a couple retweets that a friends have posted on Twitter, but that was the first time I really heard her message and like her speak. And yeah, no, she's amazing.
It's intimidating.
She really is.
It is. It's intimidating. I'm like, I reached out to her. I'm like, hey, I heard you on Counterflow with Buck Johnson. I'd like to have you on. Okay. I'm like,
See, never know till you ask.
you're right. Like, so I just ask everybody now. So I reached out to you guys. I'm like, hey, you want to come on? And then you're like, yeah, sure. I'm like, what the heck is going on? People keep saying yes. And then, and then somebody mentioned me in a tweet yesterday, like, who's the most famous podcaster you know? And they mentioned me, and I'm like, you need to expand your circle there, kid. But enough about me. How hard has it? So and we've talked about this briefly, like, but do you go by Meg or Megan?
Either or, it doesn't really matter.
What is your familial background then? Because Jen's already said that, she's Roman Catholic and Hispanic, which makes everything harder, especially coming out as a lesbian. What about you? What's your background like? Was your family not religious? Was it, not as traditional?
So my family's a little weird. My whole family. My whole family.
Well, that's out there in public now. Let's get that clipped and put that on TikTok.
But, my whole family's from the South. My dad's from like Tennessee area, and my mom's side of the family is from like Oklahoma, Texas. So
sister, you got
my mom's side
problems.
is Christian. My dad's side was Mormon. So when they got together, they decided to just kind of not push religion on me and let me figure it out for myself. I kind of like hopped around to different churches in my city growing up, and ironically, I landed on Catholicism. And it is what really
Is that
resonated.
how you guys met?
No.
Oh,
We met on Plenty of Fish, but that's a whole nother topic.
That's wait a minute. Isn't Plenty of Fish supposed to be a Christian dating site? No, that was another one. Never mind.
No, but so I found Catholicism. I went there for probably about a year and a half with a friend of mine, Marissa and her family. And we had to do confession one day. And in confession, I confessed that I had a crush on my friend Marissa. And I was told that I was never allowed back, that I'm a sinner and I'm going to go to hell. And so I completely left the religion. I left all religion. Gone. You disowned me. You hate me. I'm done. But I never left my faith, if that makes sense. I left organized religion. I always believe that there's a higher power, but I never wanted to let anybody know about that. I never wanted to divulge that type of information. I had a couple of events that happened in my recent past, and it really brought back out my faith in Catholicism. And I mean, I'm not like a hardcore go out there, like push my religion on anybody. I know Jen isn't either. But I do have faith in something else. And yeah, that's my background when it comes to religion.
Well, and let's be frank, you can't exactly talk about religion in what you would call traditionally gay spaces because they'll flip out on you.
Oh, yeah. The second you bring up anything religious.
Just the same as we were ostracized for our politics, we would be ostracized if we talked about God.
Yeah. So you got to kind of hide that, especially in California growing up. I mean, I came out to a few friends in high school in the late 90s, and that got around. I wasn't treated very nicely after that. And then I didn't officially
You just
come out
made me feel really old, by the way.
I'm 40. I just turned 40, so don't feel that old. And I officially came out to my mom in 2001. But she already knows. She said, I've known you since you were like 3 years old, but that's fine. I was just waiting for you to tell me. I'm like, okay. But since then, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, coming out as gay was easier than coming out as being religious and coming out as conservative by far.
So for
You
both
are
of you, the experience
indoctrinated.
has been for both of you, the experiences has been. I thought it was going to be tough coming out as a lesbian or gay, and now you're like literally there's actually trepidation and I'm even and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like there was even some fear
There is fear
involved.
within the gay community. There's a ton of fear within the gay community to come out as a conservative or even a libertarian leaning right, because especially on the West or any major cities, you are indoctrinated into the Democratic Party. You are taught that the right is against everything about you. You're going to be taken down. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say you're going to be put into camps to convert you back to straight, but like that's how they make it seem. Like they make it seem so extreme if you go to like a Republican or an independent and think for yourself. You are indoctrinated into this Democratic, I'm going to call it religion.
It is. There's
Oh
such a
no,
dogma.
it is
There's such a
it's
dogma.
Yeah. So
it's and
we
even
lost
beyond
family and friends. It's
even
just
beyond Democrats, it's just this leftist ideology. Josh has talked about this. I would love to have you guys get in connection with him, just to have you do a collab together, because he talks about this a lot. He has said on his show numerous times, his therapist told him, you were in a cult, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had never thought about it that way, that it is cultish. I always have seen it as a worldview that's dangerous and needs to be pushed against. But I've never, prior to hearing Josh talk about it that way, I had never thought about it in the sense of it being cultic. But it explains how they can get people to just parrot and vomit out the exact same talking points. And I don't care who you talk to. If they're on the left, if you bring up X, they'll vomit out Y. If you bring up C, they'll vomit out D. They're always, every single one of them, without fail, is on the same page all the time, and you cannot have a conversation with them because they stay on their talking points.
No. And the minute that you try to even bring up any kind of debate, here come the insults. And then they'll, like, let's say if it happens on social media, this has happened to me several times, they're going to start calling in a mob of people, tagging people that are part of the cult in order to come for you.
It's happened to me with friends that I considered friends that I've had for over 10 years. They started calling in mobs on me when I would speak one thing that went against their narrative, and it wasn't even anything bad. I don't even remember what the hell it was.
Yeah.
But
we have somebody watching that I'm not familiar with that sent a super chat and said they would love to see these two on Nick Rekieta. I don't know if you guys know who Nick Ricida is, but he's a lawyer here in Minnesota who has now a big channel, and he does like legal commentary. One of the things that everybody loves about him is the fact that some nights he starts streaming at like 10 and he just starts drinking bourbon and just drinks
Oh.
bourbon all night while he's streaming. And so by the end of the show,
Yeah.
you never know
we
what
get
you're
along. We get along.
So I don't SASP he likes you guys, or they,
Well,
she,
thank you,
he, her, it, I don't know. I'm so
SASP.
confused. I don't know what kind of pronouns to use anymore. So this almost feels like I did a roundtable on Monday night with some folks who come from the inner city region of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and one of the things that we were talking about was how the Democrats have taken Black folk, especially, not Somali or anything else, but in particular Black African American people who have been here for generations, who are, some of them descended obviously from slaves, and others who maybe weren't, but just been here for generations. But the Democrats take them for granted. You two are saying that the Democrats not only do they take the amorphous gay community for granted to include everybody that falls under that umbrella, but it's almost forced teaming. And I mentioned that in the description of this video, is forced teaming of, if you're X, you must believe or be part of Y. And if you're not part of Y, then you can't be X. And what I'm hearing is, from what I heard from the guys on Monday night, and what I'm hearing from you ladies, is give us a reason to not stay in that cultic mindset. You walked away, and you are now on the right, so to speak. And I know that's euphemistic in the sense it makes for a really good name for your social media and your podcast, which, by the way, when you're ready to actually launch the podcast, let me know. I will definitely bring you back on to promote you more.
Yeah.
But you're saying the same thing, but you guys are on the right, saying we're here. And it's not we're here, we're queer, get used to it. I remember that chant from years ago. No one says that anymore. But you're saying we're here, we're on the right, but we need a home. And I'm over here going, okay, I'm a Christian. Why do I have to be afraid on an ideological level, taking the theological perspectives out of it, which, for everybody who's Christian, there's always a theological bent to things. But taking the theological perspective out of it, what do I need to do to look at people like Jen and Meg and Josh and others, and my other friends? I'm working on bringing on a Republican who in the Twin Cities who is openly gay and running as a Republican. But what are we doing to bring them inside that camp, into that tent that says that we may have some disagreements about lifestyle and other things like that, but is there room for gays and lesbians who might even find themselves not just being economically conservative, but socially conservative too? And how do we bring those people together to see that? Because there's, like you said, this forced teaming where everybody thinks that lesbians and gays and everybody else have to be socially leftist. And you're over here going, we're not that. We're not social leftist. We're like,
we both came up with it. Let's see if she got what I got.
For one thing, I think I will say this: when I did come out as conservative, especially on social media, almost 100%, I would say a good 98% of the positivity I received was from staunch Republicans. That surprised the hell out of me. And it was
because
also
you've been told that they hate you.
Because I was indoctrinated, and I was like, these people hate me. How what was told these people hate me. Like, I'm getting so much positivity and they're welcoming me with open arms. And I thought, I had been propagated so many lies over and over that I believed. And I'm so glad that I wasn't so stuck in the cult mindset that I didn't have enough of an open mind to actually talk to these people. And I think where the left is making the mistake, where the right isn't, and I'm not going to say everybody on the right, because it does happen that we are thrown into this monolithic thing. But I feel like the right sees us more as individuals and not a monolith than the left does, because the left expects us to be a monolith. And when you are not, it's watch out or else.
And what I was going to say was that in order to defeat the evil, you all have to come together.
No more wickeds for you.
No, I stutter sometimes when I get nervous. I'm sorry.
Oh,
but
you're talking like literally no reason to be nervous on my show. I screw up all the time.
It happens all the time. But yeah, we all have to come together for the greater good of everything, right? So we can't do that if we're separated. And I want everybody, especially the Christians, the Catholics, anybody who's religious that has a different morality view on what relationships should be, to know that there are more gay people like us than there are of the loud ones that are trying to make a fuss and a ruckus and trying to disturb the entire world. Because what we fought for was to be left the hell alone. Let us get married so that way we have equal rights on our property, our finances. If one of us was to die, that's all we wanted. Mm-hmm. We wanted financial and equitable rights when it came to our assets and our, like, say she went to the hospital. I want to be the one, since I'm her wife, to go in there and be able to see her and not be held in the waiting room because I'm not immediate family. That's what we wanted. That's it. So when she got thrown in the paddy wagon a few times, when I got, I don't know, herded out by police officers rioting or not rioting, I'd say protesting, because we weren't crazy people like what happened in LA this last time, or the nation. But yeah, that's not what we fought for. We fought
to be like everybody else.
To be like everybody else, and to live our life and be left alone.
We achieved it. It should have stopped there. We stopped there.
We stopped there. That's all. I'm like, if you don't agree with my choice in the way that I live my life in the bedroom, cool. I don't care.
Don't bake my cake. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. You don't want to bake my wedding cake? I don't care. I'll go somewhere else. It's not a big deal.
So
everybody's allowed their religious rights.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Great segue. You guys are going to be really good when you get your show started. Let's bring that up. Why do you think there is an incessant need with that particular segment of the community on the left that happens to be part of the LGBTQ plus? However, I mean, it's plus now, or whatever it is. But why is there an intent? I mean, and there's no way to avoid the reality of the intentional nature of them hunting down businesses that have a clear Christian manifesto, not in the weird way. I mean, we use the term manifesto, and sometimes people hear it in a way it shouldn't be heard. But have a very clear Christian manifesto, or a very clear Christian perspective, and they hunt them down and single them out for elimination. Having been in that, not that you were part of that, but having been in that community prior to the walking away several years ago, what do you think it is is there an agenda there, or is there some sort of deep-seated hatred that makes them feel like they have to destroy these people?
Because I'm going to say this, and this is probably going to be a hot take too far, and that's okay. They hate God. They hate God. They have no religion. And in a country that has lost their religion, they believe in nothing, and they will fall for everything.
Because their ideology has become their religion. Mm-hmm. And they only perpetuate what they are taught.
Wow, you just gave me I don't know. You guys call them goose pimples or goose bumps. I don't know.
It's
It's
true though.
It's true though.
And like I always say, it's so funny because I used to watch that Leah Remini, in which she's not my favorite politically, documentary about leaving Scientology.
Oh, she
And
did
one
an
of-
entire series on that.
Yeah, one of the greatest quotes,
So
and I
bad.
use it often, is she says the difference between a religion and a cult is what happens when you try to leave. That's exactly
living
what we
proof.
experienced.
We're living proof of that.
They will come for you, and
They will try to do whatever it
Right.
takes to destroy you.
and that's why you see them. You know, if you notice, I know you have a Twitter account. They repeat these mantras over and over, like trans women are women, trans men are men, over and over in all caps, like a prayer, like a chant. It's total dogma. It's disgusting.
It's a cult.
Well, you guys aren't afraid to point that out in your media, especially on your TikTok. Some of the indoctrination and whatnot that takes place. I can only see what you guys post on Twitter because I'm a very limited access to TikTok because I'm not on there because I'm over the age of 50, and I think there's some sort of thing.
There are
that
more
says
people our age than not. Don't be afraid.
you're taking. Come on over to the TikTok side. But you're not afraid to point out that, and you said this, look, there are far more people on the conservative wing of socio-cultural political issues within the gay community than anybody would imagine. But they're not the ones that are getting the traction. The ones that are getting the traction are the radicals, the big mouths, right? I have a big mouth. No one pays attention to me. What are you talking about? The wrong kind of big mouth, I guess.
Big mouth and numbers.
Why? I was reading or listening to something the other day that said that we went from a segment of society, 3 to 5% of people would maybe identify as gay, lesbian, all the other stuff, to now they're seeing numbers like 10 to 15% of the population is identifying that way. Having walked away, do you think that that's an accurate assessment? And no, she didn't even wait for me to finish. No, go ahead. It's your show now. So
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's social contagion. In 2022, victimhood is currency, you know, and so it's the one thing that you can't disprove. It's not like somebody my skin tone saying, "Well, I'm black, so I'm oppressed," or somebody like Megan's skin tone saying, "I'm Hispanic, I'm oppressed." It's something that they can't question. If you say I'm gay or trans or whatever, it's just immediate validation, right? So that's why you're seeing now even straight people. There was just a study done about women that are saying they're bisexual but have only exclusively been in heterosexual relationships the past 5 years. So they've never even been with women, but they're saying I'm bisexual, right? It's because that victimhood currency, it gets them that little card that they can use.
Really? So you think no, Meg is going to
say. Oh, I was going to say, it's like if you look back in the 90s, what was the number one thing that would get attention from people? It was either anorexia or cutting. In the late 90s, early 2000s, it was teen pregnancy. And then MTV came out with Teen Moms, and then it really skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Then now there was the jazz show, and that really amplified, you know, young kids getting on puberty blockers. And now all of a sudden it's rampant. And it 4,000% in the last 2 years increase is
of young females.
Wait a minute, you just put a number on it. It's been a 4,000%
increase in young females transitioning to males, which is why I brought up the
Wait
whole.
a minute. So I'm not that I don't believe you, Meg, but is that a documented like 4,000? Like
I believe that the Tavistock clinic, which was the biggest gender clinic in the UK, just got shut down because they were basically couldn't confirm they weren't harming children. That was
by the way, just if you're not aware, they're not shut down. They've just broken it up and have spread it across the country into different smaller Tavistock clinics.
Yeah, the main hub actually
It's-
shut down. But it's like how Planned Parenthood was,
Yeah.
where they have these tiny little clinics spread out all over the place.
Now, yeah.
But they can't have the big one, the big hospital.
Snakes.
I told you something you didn't know.
Yeah, I know. I was really following that. That's something. But yeah,
no,
I
they
do
didn't.
feel
They
like
haven't
it's
shut it
social
down.
contagion.
They're just spreading it out across Great Britain.
This was based off their studies, and I even believe I read the U.S. isn't doing studies first off because they want the profit. This is their cash cow.
Lifelong medical.
Yeah, lifelong medical patients. But yeah, that's been from different European countries that, as a whole, that 4,000% increase amongst young females doing that, and not a majority. I would say a large portion of those females and males that are identifying as trans also have autism. So there's that connection too. Yeah.
So,
And they did release that study. That's where I got the number.
right. So you're saying that this 4,000% increase, as shown by Tavistock, has arisen predominantly through, for lack of better terminology, peer pressure.
Peer pressure, and also I feel like peer
Indoctrination.
pressure on the part of the social circles that the parents run in. Because when you're looking at a child I'm hearing the parents say, "Oh, well, we knew he was transgender because he told us he was that too." Come on, that's the parents now pushing that, and it's, again, it's for woke points. They themselves are what I say are akin to like the pageant moms that you used to see on TLC, where as Megan says, the trans kid is like the new Louis Vuitton bag.
No.
I mean,
That's not funny, but it's so true.
It gets you SJW points. It gets you woke points. And these people are so open-minded. Their brains have fallen out, and they are using their kids in that way. And it very much.
Yep, you're old like me, aren't you?
It definitely feels like
parents used to tell me that all the time. Don't be so open-minded, your brain falls out. I'm like, it's too late.
Yeah, but it's true though. I feel like every day that I wake up and I stroll through social media or look at independent journalist stories, I feel like I'm reading The Onion or the Babylon Bee, and these stories are actually real, and I'm going, what in the hell world do I live in?
And then the videos. I think one of the biggest problems that we have right now is seeing the things that are happening at Pride events with kids
and drag shows, like
and drag shows. But we do have to say that Jen actually has a friend that lives in Georgia. She's afraid to speak out because of whatever reason. But she has been sending her articles. There are drag shows that are refusing.
She didn't send me an article because nobody would write about it.
Oh,
but
she refused. The drag queens refused to do shows because the parents, straight parents, were bringing their children to these shows. So there is even a huge population of the drag community that's against what's going on with these children too.
Yeah.
Well, do you ladies remember back when drag wasn't even a thing about sexuality? Like, there were straight men that did drag because it was fun and funny.
Yeah.
It was a parody. It was, I mean, I hate to say it, but it was a parody.
But they tried to look like women.
Right. It was just a parody of femininity.
Well, Jesus.
Of Hollywood glam. And it was just entertainment. By
even
the time,
Bugs Bunny.
Well, no, but by the time I was coming out, it was like the late 90s. It was still not overly sexualized at that point. Come the 2000s, then it was just like no holds barred. It was filth, basically, like the whole gay community and that more feminized boy version of it. That's what they would say. We read you for filth, and it would be like the lowest of the low. I don't know if you know who John Waters is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what filth basically was born from. So just like the most shocking things you can think of, that's what it became, which is fine if you're in a room full of adults, but not when you have people bringing their kids in there. And I would, on one hand, yes, I blame it on the facility holding it and the queens that are seeing the kids there and still performing the same show without any kind of tweaking not thinking about it. But
Lots of twerking,
it's
no
the parents.
tweaking.
But it is the parents' fault. Like, why the hell are you bringing your kid there? And the thing that's the reason why we're so angry about it is because at the end of the day, the parents aren't the ones getting blamed for it. The LGBTQXYZWX is getting blamed for it. And unfortunately, we are guilty by association,
Yeah. And that's why we're really tired of it. And that's what prompted us to start speaking out, because there are a lot more of us that are just scared to speak out. They're scared of the retaliation. And I mean, how we've already gotten it all. What's left? There's nothing that anybody could say or do online to shock me. I mean, I've been banned on Facebook 4 times in the last 6 months for nothing. So
Let me. I'm watching the comment section. I'm getting messages as this is coming in. I'm like, I always wonder, like, people are like, I'm watching and I'm getting comments. And I'm like, why is it not showing that I'm getting more views? I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is a great conversation. People need to be you folks need, if you're watching this and you haven't shared this out, you're crazy, because this is the kind of conversation we should be having. I don't understand. You walked away. Meg, you kind of followed Jen. Like, it's your fault because you introduced her to Twitter, and then she got all fired up. I have no idea what that's like, because that never happens to me. But you guys are on the same page. You're walking away. You're looking around. You're like, okay, man, we got to start coming out and telling people that we're gonna come out of the political closet and tell people we're kind of conservative, like more than kind of. We're actually really conservative. You were probably already there. I have a newer friend, Jake, who hosts Guns and Mental Health. It's a talk show podcast about guns and mental health through Walk the Talk America, which is literally he's a mental health professional who owns guns and wants other people to understand that guns aren't bad. And he had kind of the same reaction with, like, he's sitting in a room with other mental health professionals and just kind of having to be the shrinking daisy, on the wall, and not ever talk about guns because everybody would look down at him. And he's had numerous people on who have said, like, sitting in a classroom in university or whatever, and I had to keep all of this to myself. You're at that same place. Now you're out. You're out politically and proud and loud, and you've received pushback. People have attempted to cancel you. They've attempted to dox you. There's been some success with that. There's been threats of unlifing you and corrective coercion. All of this, everybody keeps freaking out. The reactionary conservative, the reactionary right, they're out there doing what they always do, which is, oh, the world is ending and we have to stop this. I just want to go back to 50 years ago when my parents' life was perfect and everything was normal and all of that. But even I'm sitting here somewhat black-pilled on some things, going, this has got to correct itself real fast, or there's going to be a massive, massive, massive problem. And my concern is, much like I would have with the constant drive by the leftist regime to separate people over not just economics, but over ethnicity, there is a massive drive by the leftists to cause alienation between conservative, straight, cisgendered individuals and everybody who might be in the LGBTQ world. They want to divide. And either there's going to be some sort of bridge built, or there's going to be violence. And I'm really concerned that it's not going to come from the right. It's actually going to come from the left, because we've started to see it. But when the right wakes up, if we don't get this under control and we don't get conversations started, if the right wakes up, you don't want to be on the wrong side of that fight.
Yep.
But yeah. If the right wakes up, I mean, there's not really going to be a fight. I mean, have you seen the left?
Yes.
But I mean, besides for that point, yeah, like
Touche.
I agree with you. But honestly, I have never felt more loved or appreciated than I have coming to the right side of the political party. Wholeheartedly, open arms, except for maybe there's a few like hard right people, like evangelical, like extreme right people, which is very few and far in between. And when those people have come in on either Gen-right, the general right side of the political party has stepped in and stepped up for us and really fought for, for us and stuck up for us. So I don't think that the generalized right side of the political party has a problem with gay people coming over.
You got to understand too, though, that old guard right it's dead.
It's dead.
It's not
and
the same. There is a new right, and I mean, you will hear it being talked about in media too. I mean, I guess.
The new right.
We're all for MAGA now, apparently, if we care about our country and want to keep it from burning. But yeah,
the new right is actually far more
MAGA
conservative than the old guard right is. The old guard right was they're not really conservative.
They're just sitting on their ass and letting this all happen and basically handing everything to the other side.
The rhinos versus the new right.
So, I mean, I think that's why a lot of the Trump, Republicans are winning these midterms right now is because of that. And again, I mean, I have certain issues with things that Trump did, but if I have to compare it to what's going on now, I'll take the orange guy every day.
Yeah, and
you'll take Dorito hair. You'll take Dorito hair over.
Yeah.
Hair sniffer.
What I like to say is that it's a lot of us who are shifted over to the right side. It's not necessarily Trump that did it. He sparked the fuse, and it's not him per se that we support. It's the message and what he
the policy,
the policies. It's
the leave us alone
that he created that we support.
It's the leave us alone mentality.
Yeah, it's not the man, it's the message. And I think a lot of leftists really confuse the two. Like, I'm sorry, like, we're the only household in our neighborhood for like a 7-block radius that has an American flag out front. But I don't give a shit. You want to come for me? Come for me. But I love my country, and I'm sorry, but he woke up 90% of the country because we didn't realize what was being fed to us until we saw it for ourselves, how they cropped and edited and cut all of these speeches and everything else and like piece things together to make it seem horrible. And I'm like, oh, he's so racist, but yet he's been in every single rap video since like 1988. Like, no. And it just made no sense. And I think that's a lot of part where we like officially left the left was because of all the false narrative that was going on about a lot of things, not just him.
Well, people like
and
me.
And then COVID hit. And then my shit hit the fan.
Well, just so you know, if we talk about the virus anymore, we refer to it as the coof.
The coof. I call it COVID.
I call it I call it the Karen and the Jabberwocky.
I think we'll just stick with coof on my channel because that's easier to say than Jabberwocky over and over again.
For sure.
But I think here's the reality is that you have two things happening in there, two sides of the same coin. You have everybody on the left telling everybody else on the left that you have to be afraid of all the people on the right. And everybody there are certain segments of the right telling everybody else on the right that you need to watch out for those people over there because they don't agree with you on anything. They're your enemy. And I'm not a compromiser. I hate compromise. I think that compromise only ever leads to degradation. But what I do think it is possible and helpful is finding these areas where we agree, where we can say, okay, this is a line that's gone too far. We've crossed too many boundaries. What can we do to fix that? And I had a conversation with a Democrat, a local Democrat today. I invited him over. I found out he was door knocking in our little town, and I said, "Hey, why don't you send him a message? Say, stop by. I'd love to talk to you." And I invited him to an event that we're having in September, that we're making completely nonpartisan. We're inviting people from across political ideologies because it's something I think we should all get behind. And the problem is that the two sides, which are really the main artery of the uniparty, they don't want us to do that. The minute we start talking, people like you find out that people like me aren't the big bad boogeyman, the Freddy Kruegers, if you will, that you've been told. And people like me are going to find out that you're not these like radical. Well, I don't want to use the word because that'll get us banned, but you're not targeting everybody's children. You personally aren't. And it actually pisses you off that you have to fight that mentality, because there are people out there that are literally targeting people's children. And we're sitting here saying, where can we work together? And so even if you're not necessarily inherently Christian in your perspective or religious in your perspective, there's still some common ground in this conservatism that says, and this is why I find myself every day leaning more and more to the more Mises caucus style libertarianism as opposed to what's become of the Republican Party, is that I don't like, we can have differences, but I don't care what you do in your home. It's none of my damn business what you're doing in your home. Just like what I'm doing in my home is none of your business. What I read, what I think, what I drink, what I consume, none of that, who I have over, what I do when they're here, none of that is anybody's business. And the last thing that we need is anybody else telling us we have to accept it or we have to make it illegal. And the problem is the bigwigs on both sides want to tell us exactly what to think and how to think it. And the Republicans, and here's where their hypocrisy comes in, they're all for getting the government out of everything until they have the power.
Correct.
And can then make you use that power to try and make you think what they want you to think. They're all, Spike Cohen had said a while ago, and now other people are starting to parrot it. And Monica Perez has a great way of saying it as well. So I'm just going to paraphrase the two of them. But ultimately, the left, they promise you tyranny and tell you that you have to be okay with it. Like, we're going to give you tyranny because that's what we're about. The Republicans will turn around, the rhinos will turn around and say, oh no, we're the party of liberty. We're the party of individual rights. But then they give you the exact same tyranny that the Democrats promise you. So there's no difference. Just one of them is bold about their agenda, and the other side lies about it. And I think go ahead.
This is why Trump was so effective. He wasn't the same trash career politician that we had time after time that would promise you the world on both sides and do nothing for you, and that's, like I said, think what you will about him as a person. I don't care. I don't care. I don't have him as a guest in my house. I don't have to be friends with the guy. I'm not married to the guy. What I care about was the benefit that it had to me as an American citizen. And in that 4 years, my life was vastly improved in ways that it hadn't been before. I would have never been able to buy a house. Like, there's just so many things that happened during that time where people just the hatred all of a sudden when everybody wanted to be him and everybody wanted to be seen with him before he ran as a presidential candidate, that all came from the fact that they were scared of him because he was an outsider. I mean, look what's happening now. It's still a thing. They don't want him to run again because they know that people are tired of the same, like Pelosi in their 50 million years and Biden in their 50 million years. And what have they done in that time period? Not a damn thing.
Yeah, well, did Meg pass out?
No, she was. I think she had to use the restroom.
Yeah, quick, put the pillow up there so it looks like she's here.
All right, I'm gonna prop it up.
Do you see there being backlash within the gay, homosexual, whatever, however you want to say it? Do you see there being backlash there now where even people who might not be on the right but might consider themselves more moderate or even slightly left of center are saying this is like, we can't do this anymore? Or are they so snowballed that they feel like they have to be behind what's going on?
No, and I see that because of social media and organizations like Gays Against Groomers, for instance, where it's completely nonpartisan. There's a lot of people that are involved that are, conservative, but there's also a lot of people that are not. They're, independent, or they're still consider themselves, Democrats, liberal Democrats. That, I mean, you would have to have your eyes closed not to see how far left and insane it's gone. And I think everybody's just waking up. Like, if you're not politically savvy and you're not paying attention, you wouldn't know these things are happening. Because I do know there's very politically ignorant people to the point where I feel like there should be aptitude tests to vote. Because they're just really, I believe that.
No, I'm the guy who has said, I've kind of come to the point where I'm like, not only do I want you to have an ID to vote, but I think maybe you should almost have to own property. And I don't want people to hear me saying that actually needs to be a thing, but I'm kind of the point, like, I don't know what to do anymore because there's like, what incentive is there for people to not vote selfishly anymore? Which is because that's what it comes down to. It's literally, I have had conservatives tell me I'm going to vote for the guy who's going to give me the most stuff. Like, I don't care if you're talking financial or personal agenda. Like, if your whole reason for voting for a candidate at whatever level it is strictly because what they're going to give you,
then you're sleeping, because they always make promises they don't keep.
Pretty much.
But you're literally encouraging the abuse of the system. It should be, I'm voting for this person because they promise they're not going to give me a damn thing, and they're going to do as little as possible other than to try and fix all the other crap that's happened. Like, that's the person I want. That's what I want to hear from the next political candidate is,
that would be nice.
What I want to hear is that
I'm not doing a damn thing. That's
what I want to hear is that I'm going to focus on America first. We're not going to be sending billions upon billions of dollars to other countries. We're going to take care of our own citizens, our own veterans, and we're going to heal our country. That's what I want to hear. Let's heal our country before we help the rest of the world. Because the rest of the world is not our country.
We're going to secede before that happens.
Oh, so are you?
I'll probably be dead before that happens. But yeah, I don't know, Meg, because there are a lot of people that are talking about national divorce right now. If you're not familiar with who he is, but Tom Woods is a wonderful thinker, deeply philosophical writer and deeply philosophical speaker, and he does I think he does like 14 podcasts a day. I don't know. He's just got content coming up constantly. But he just released a free ebook about national divorce, about secession.
And if you haven't, if you have the time to, if you read by listening, or if you have the time to read, he has a book out called Nullification. His entire premise of the book is about counties and cities and states nullifying federal overreach. And the premise of that is that secession is not unconstitutional. It's literally the entire premise of the Constitution. And I shouldn't say entire, but it's certainly there. And I think we're getting there. And that there's a lot of people who are coming out, not just whacked out weirdos who, want to build little like conservative communes and left-wing communes and stuff, but like actual legitimate thinkers who are like, it might be time. It might literally be time, because the direction that we're heading right now is literally, if we keep at it, it's and the federal government keeps forcing things on people, it's going to get bloody.
Yeah, the tribalism is so vast at this point. I feel that I'm not saying this to be like doomsday, but I feel like it would take something. I'm trying to be careful the way I word this. Catastrophic to happen in this country for anybody to want to come together with their fellow Americans at this point, regardless of what their belief system is.
Yeah.
You both remember September 11th, 2001.
That's exactly what popped into my mind when I was saying that.
Yeah.
And
to have it be reference to another thing that happened recently really irritated the hell out of me, because it is nothing in the same.
Yeah.
No,
Something that happened in January.
No, I know what you're referring to, and I want to make such a smiling joke right now, but it just wouldn't. But if you look at the way this, and I don't care about all the different theories and all of the different ideas about what happened on September 11th, 2001, and who did it and who's responsible and why they did it and all of that. But one thing did come out of that. That was a positive. And that was, for a few days, we were all together. It didn't matter white, black, native, Hispanic, Asian, gay, lesbian, straight, bi. It just didn't matter. We all came together and said this was a horrible, tragic thing, and it should not have happened. And we looked in the wrong direction, in my perspective. We looked to the state, and I use that phrase a lot in my social media and in here on my show. The state, as in at all her levels: the local state, the city state, the county state, the state, and the federal state. We looked to the state, especially the federal state, and said, protect us. Don't ever let us go through this ever again. Please don't ever, 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 ever let this happen to us again. And it was in that moment, maybe the most singular moment of the history of the United States outside of the American Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
We gave more authority to the federal state to take care of us and keep us safe than we'd ever given them before. And what we have been left with since then has been a uniparty which has sought to continue to manipulate our desire to be safe and comfortable, so that we're willing to be made enemies of one another just to not lose any comfort and lose any peace. And it has caused people to not want to have the kind of conversations that we're having right now, because we shouldn't get along, right? Like, there's literally like Roman Catholic, agnostic, Calvinistic, Reformed Baptist over here. Like, everything in the world says that we shouldn't be able to have a conversation, but here we are having a conversation about the things that actually, as you showed, Meg, with your that unite us. There are things that unite us, and the things that are separate for us are, I wouldn't necessarily say they're minuscule, but they're a thing we can have a conversation about as we're going. But right now, we have got to say, is losing our republic over stuff that's not necessarily unimportant, but is really inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, is it really worth losing our republic over whether or not somebody uses the right pronoun and what bathroom that they use? And
No, I get called a him or a sir all day long because I don't always look this pretty. Like when I go to work, I drive and I transport railroad crew workers. Like I'm not gonna wear makeup and do my hair and all that other crap to go to work. I'm called sir all day, every day. It doesn't bother me.
Same. Like if I'm in the women's restroom and somebody sees me from the back of my head washing my hands, they'll double check the door. That's not an act of violence. I know what the hell I look like. It
Yeah.
doesn't bother me at all. It's actually funny. And then they see me, oh, I'm so sorry, dude. Like it's fine.
Yeah, and they feel like the over need to apologize.
The
which is
overcorrection.
what I
all
feel
this-
bad about. And I'm just like, no, dude, it's chill. Like I know what I look like. You don't trip. Like-
but you're also in California, so you might get hit on by the railroad workers too.
No, actually I don't. They're very respectful people.
Oh, all right.
Very, very respectful.
Okay, Kentucky then.
Don't know about any other state, but all the ones that I've come in contact with are very respectful, family-oriented, actually conservative people.
Yeah, no, usually
What
the
kind
men gunning for us are pretending to be women. Usually is what the
Pretty
is
much.
that- we're
Pretty
we're
much.
the golden goose.
As far as I've heard, I'm very intimidating. So there's also that.
I've been told that too. You're intimidating, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm looking.
You can't tell right now, but I'm 5'10", fairly muscular-ish, and I don't always wear makeup.
You're 5'10" and muscular-ish. I'm muscular-ish too, mostly ish. I used to be almost 300 pounds. I used to tell people, I'd rather die fat and happy, and I'm less in shape and more shapes. So when are we going to get you guys to start doing a regular show? I mean, I know you work weird hours and like
Yeah, right now I'm
shift
doing a lot of
work and
graveyard,
stuff,
which
but
is
you
really
guys
hard.
you guys need a show. What do I need to sick people on you? Is that what it is? Do I need to?
Probably sick people
Okay.
on us.
'Cause I know
I think Wednesdays is probably gonna be the best day because she's out early and I'm off that day. So we'll try to shoot for Wednesdays. Oh, that is the Dangerous Reddit podcast.
Yeah, but we're not in competition with them.
Yeah.
What day is that?
Wednesday.
Who are you competing with?
Oh no, she said that's when our friend Brantley does dangerous rhetoric.
That we've been on quite a few times. So
Who is this person?
Huh?
Who is this person?
Our friend Brentley, he does dangerous rhetoric, excuse me. It's basically the same thing as like Gay Wednesday or whatever,
Just
where
a general conversation.
it's just a conversation about whatever the hell's going on that week.
There's a show called Gay Wednesday.
It's not specifically called that, but it's
we do like we have been.
It's a bunch of gay people on Wednesday that talk.
right leaning, as
Yeah.
we call them, homocons.
Yeah.
Homocons. And all of the neocons out there just got a shiver down their spine right there.
Oh my god! Right. Well, apparently we don't exist according to them, so you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Wednesday.
I would like to meet this Brentley. Dangerous Rhetoric is right up my alley.
Yeah, he's an amazing individual. I actually love him. And Daniel, who also runs it, he's the co-host. They're amazing people. They're pretty much like the male version of us.
Yeah.
Are they a couple too?
No, actually.
I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't really asked.
Are we shipping them right now and they don't even know it?
I think they might be roommates. I haven't really I don't know. I haven't felt the need to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they co-host together.
Well, the reason
they fight like married couples, but
so they just go to their room and go to sleep quietly and don't say a word for days. That's
Unless you're a lesbian relationship.
Yeah.
And then it's always toxic.
And then we just never shut up. But
Well, we're in Minnesota. When we fight, it's just a lot of not saying anything.
And cold.
And very cold. Yeah, and that's not just our personalities. No, the reason this idea of dangerous rhetoric appeals to me is that, so one of you has watched a little bit of my personal story about how I ended up. Yeah, I couldn't remember which one of you it was, but the city attorney of the city of Albert Lea, who is one of the people who called the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, so the Minnesota version of the FBI, and actually called the FBI, reported me to both the BCA and the FBI for my videos about what she was doing to a friend of mine who was a business owner during the COOF lockdowns. Because if there was any state that was almost as hard as California and New York, it was Minnesota. This gal, the city attorney, this Kelly Don Martinez in Albert Lea, was prosecuting or persecuting this friend of mine in this little city of Albert Lea. And I called on people to take note of this and to send emails and make phone calls. Social action, right? Didn't give out her address or anything. Just said, here's where she works. Here's her phone number, her public phone number at her office, and here's her office email. And contact the city council and contact her. She reported me for that. And
it's public information.
Right. She reported me for that, said that I doxed her, and then also called my former employer, the sheriff's office of Olmsted County, Minnesota, and reported me for this. This then started the process of me going into this fight with my former employer. Well, the same lady then subpoenaed me to testify on behalf of the state, the city of Albert Lea, against my friend.
Oh my God.
In December of 2021. After attacking me, she subpoenaed me as a state witness. And sitting outside of the courtroom, I didn't approach her, she approached me, and she said, she comes up to me and she goes, I just need to tell you that you're not allowed to talk about the Constitution while you're on the stand. And then I said, hey,
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, well, it was a court order from the judge. And this is the dangerous rhetoric part. Yeah, I know, don't have an aneurysm right now. I could see it in your temple is throbbing. After she said that, I said, hey, Ms. Martinez, I just want you to understand, like, I don't advocate. I'm actually a non-violence person. I do not believe in aggression. I don't believe in being the initiator of force. I would never call on anybody to do harm to anyone over disagreements. And she goes, that's not what matters. What matters is your rhetoric is dangerous. So when you said dangerous rhetoric, long story short, I'm like, I like these guys already.
And like, but why? Because you disagree with something. That's the thing with the way they're changing all these words and meanings of words, and to suit different ideologies. It's scary because when you can manipulate language like that, it changes the culture, and it's showing.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck on, there was a court order that you can't mention the Constitution in a court of law.
Oh yeah, it's I was getting ready to say, hey, let's wrap this up, but yeah. No, it literally so my friend was representing herself. She was pro se and sui juris, and she was her own defense attorney.
Her own lawyer.
Her own lawyer. And the judge the city attorney was able to convince the judge to have any reference to the Constitution removed from the entire proceeding, because my friend Lisa isn't a constitutional authority. She's not an expert on the Constitution, and therefore she can't speak to the intent of the Constitution or of the penners of the Constitution or anything like that. Ordered that in the courtroom, and then also said that no one could mention it. And so at the end of that case, over misdemeanor charges, by the way, for a lady who's hadn't had a speeding ticket in I don't know how long, The judge dressed her down for over 20 minutes in the courtroom after the jury came back because they couldn't hear anything about the Constitution. So all they could hear was the law, and whether or not the law was constitutional didn't matter because the judge wouldn't let any of that in. So the jury came back based on the finding of fact of the evidence presented about the law, found her guilty of keeping her business open during the COOF lockdowns. And the judge sentenced her to 90 days in jail on misdemeanor charges. 90 days. Through she missed, I think it was her anniversary and Christmas and the New Year. And it also happened that roughly a week after she was put in jail, we had a freak weather event that resulted in the largest number of tornadoes to ever hit southern Minnesota in December. It was December 15th. All on one day. And one of those wiped out a portion of her family property. And they petitioned for a hardship release for her to go and be with her husband as they were trying to fix up the property. And the judge was like, nope, she made her nest. She can stay in it. Yeah.
Political prisoners.
Mental note. Don't ever go to Minnesota.
Oh no. Well, you guys have it even worse than we do. It's just there's just more trouble there for you than there is for us. But yeah, he flat out told her, you think you're some sort of political activist. And the problem is you're not a political activist, because political activists know how to work this, or know how the system works. And if you want political action to change things, you go through your elected representatives. You don't take things into your own hands. And I'm sitting here I'm hearing this in the courtroom and I'm going, what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What? Like the entire civil rights movement, bro.
Right.
Wow. The women's suffrage movement. Like, are you kidding me? Like you don't take the law into your own hands. You don't anyway. So yeah. Dangerous rhetoric. I would love to meet your friends. That just for the fact that they're cheeky enough to just throw it out there and make it, make it pretty obvious what their viewpoint is, because you don't say dangerous rhetoric in a non-ironic way.
Yeah, they're good guys.
So we're thinking Wednesdays.
Yeah, I'm thinking Wednesdays is
for sure.
Wednesdays is probably going to be the best day for us.
Well, don't try and bite off too much when you get started. Just, come up with...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if they're not live at first, but at least to get them recorded and edited and out, get it going.
Right. Absolutely. And when you do decide to go, you reach out and we'll push your stuff out there. We'll
definitely. Thank you so much.
You.
So any go ahead. What did you say?
I just said it's been fun.
Oh, don't tell people that. Any closing thoughts from you two?
Actually, don't, everybody out there, don't let anybody tell you that they know everything about every group of people, because we're all individuals and everybody thinks differently.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
The heck you say? You mean you guys don't represent the entirety of the lesbian community?
Nope. Look at, I'm conservative and I still have my liberal subterfuge costume on.
with my green hair.
With my green hair.
Like, you can't even use that anymore. Like, just now everybody. Like, it's just like
pretty much, right?
Tattoos, piercings, live in California, and I'm gay. You can, but yet, don't let me open my mouth around you.
Pretty much. We're doing.
I have no tattoos. I don't live in California, and I'm not gay. And you still don't want me to open my mouth around you. So, well, I really appreciate your time. I hope that you enjoyed it, and you're old pros. I shouldn't say old. That's probably not very nice. You did not seem unpolished at all. So you certainly are. You're ready. You're ready to do this. Go out and do it. Like, go out and make your voice heard. I think
Thank you
it'll
so much.
Thank
it'll be
you. Appreciate
amazing.
that.
And like I said, anything that I can do to get you out there and get you some traction. I'm all about taking people and I don't care if 2 days after you start, you've got more subscribers than I do. I would love that. So go do your thing and let me know when you get it going so I can start sharing it.
Thank
We
you.
will
Will
for sure.
do.
Thank you.
So, well, you guys have a good night and I probably go make dinner now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 6:45. Go make dinner. I'm going to have second dinner.
All right. You have a good night too.
We'll see you later. Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate
Bye.
it. Bye. Hey, this is why we have these conversations. This is why this is so important. Like, we have to get over these differences and these variances. And like I said, are there things I'm sure we could talk about? Like, sure. Like, if we were having if this were my religious channel where I talk about the gospel and doctrine and theology, like, maybe we could have that conversation. I've had conversations with Mormons and Roman Catholics. I've got, on that channel. That's not what this is about. And I'm not saying those things don't have to be important. They certainly can be important to you. They don't give up your ideological perspectives. If you're a religious person, don't give up your religious perspective, and don't be afraid to have a conversation with somebody just because you think they might be outside of your religious camp. I can almost promise you that people like Jen and Meg and Josh Slocum and my other new friend James, like, they want to have these conversations. These aren't things that you need to be afraid of, and not everything needs to be. If you're a conservative Christian, like a legitimate conservative evangelical Christian, this is coming from the guy who believes in the gospel. Not every single conversation that you have with somebody when it comes to some of these issues has to be about that. So find those people who are politically without a home, who feel isolated and alone and left out. Find them and reach out to them and talk to them and welcome them into that world so that they know they have a place where they can go and be heard and can not necessarily feel comfortable, but not be worried about being isolated because of one particular thing that may or may not be exactly what you would want from them. Because I got news for you. I might be a conservative voice, but there are going to be things that I believe and think that a lot of people within the conservative movement aren't going to agree with either. Most of them being neocons and normie cons. But that's the way it is. We have to have these conversations and we have to welcome these people in, because this is how we start to make a difference. So make sure that you're watching this and sharing it and getting the word out there that there is a place for these conversations for us to have, just like my conversation with the guys on Monday night. These kind of roundtable discussions and conversations are very important. What I will say before I finish up is check out the merchandise. If you haven't tried the coffee yet, let me know, and we can get you coffee. We can get you merch. I'm still working on the supplier for the beanies. Winter is coming, and everybody keeps talking about how much it's a must be a Minnesota thing, but everybody keeps saying, I want one of your stocking caps. I want a beanie. So hey, we'll work on trying to get that done too. Thank you to the folks at Arden Sales Group. Thank you to all of my supporters over on Subscribestar. You guys are all very important to me, and you make this possible for me to continue to do this. If you're interested in supporting the show, I would ask you to head over to Subscribestar. It's less than a cup of coffee at the lowest level. Literally less than a cup of coffee these days. And if you live in California or anywhere on the left coast, one of the two left coasts, I guarantee you it's like a third of the price of a cup of coffee. So head over to subscribe to our Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast. If you aren't a subscriber to the YouTube channel, if you don't follow me on Twitter, please do so. The YouTube channel, it's very easy to just smash that button down there to subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you're getting notifications. Twitter is @Robe Regiment. Facebook is TC Pearson. Once again, check out the merchandise. Let me know what you want and we can get it to you. And until next time, my friends, fight for your liberty. It is yours. Fight for your freedom. It belongs to you. And sic semper tyrannis.
We are going for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.